It's amazing. It really is just how the buffers pop up everywhere. You're like Puerto Ricans. You're everywhere.
You know, considering the fact we, well, I'm Italian. Maybe there's a slight similarity. I don't know. I think you have a better right hook than most of us. But you know, Michael and I meeting 25 years ago, and then for all the 6 degrees of separation that we created in that last 20 years that I've been managing his career, I'm just mind-boggled. I'm humbled every time I think about it.
Now, where'd you grow up?
I was dropped off. I was conceived in Vegas. I was dropped off in Oklahoma on the 21st, which is my lucky number. It's probably why I like to play blackjack. Then I was there for 9 months. We moved to Dallas, Texas. So real easily, between the age of 1 and 15, I spent half my life in Philadelphia, where my family's all born and from. So I call Philadelphia my hometown. And I spent it in Dallas. And then at 15, we moved to Malibu, which was like culture shock. I'm 15, my hormones are flying. I see girls, blonde girls I've never seen before. All I want to do is lose my virginity and learn how to surf. And I learned how to surf first. I became a lifeguard, Baywatch before Baywatch, and it was an incredible experience growing up in Malibu. Tough experience, actually, believe it or not.
Who did you go to high school with?
Yeah. Went to high school with Dan Blocker's son, who went on to do some work. Went to with not Heather Locklear, but remember the Fall Guy with Heather. What was her name? But she was, every time she walked through the quad, everybody would stop and stare at her ass. I mean, this girl stopped traffic, right? It was crazy. And she went on to have a nice little career and then a nice little cocaine addiction. Hopefully she came out of that okay. But she did well from there. And there were a couple other well-known people that came out of Salmon High, some politicians. I'd have to think for a second, but I'm not sure. And then, of course, hopefully I have something to bring to Salmon High. I don't know.
I'm going to ask you quite a lot of questions tonight.
You got
first being, where the fuck is Malibu? That's how retarded I am.
Are you serious?
Malibu's the beach and up. Where's Malibu? Like
right.
when I go down to Panga Canyon, where is Malibu?
All right, if you go down to Panga Canyon and you turn right, you're in Malibu.
Where's the high school? Like Dean Kane's from Malibu,
okay.
Right?
Dean, I'll tell you a funny story about Dean.
Dean and all you guys are from Malibu.
Yeah, I know Dean because my girlfriend, Kim, at the time, Dean started dating her after I started dating her, and then Dean and I almost got in a big fight at a party at Malibu West Beach Club one night when one of his cronies got cocky with me, and my buddy and I called them all out, and that got stopped real quick. And Dean and I still talk about it today because Dean and I are friends. He's a great guy. Very cool man. But Malibu High, basically, there was no high school in Malibu. Back then, it was junior high, and it was across from Zuma Beach, which today is the Malibu High School. In those days, because of the politics, they didn't want to have to bus in people from the city, probably the ethnic groups. So instead, we all got bused to Santa Monica High School. Now, I grew up in Philadelphia, and my school was 60, 70% black that I was going to, and I got along with everybody. I mean, I grew up, I'm fine. But a lot of these kids, you know, they go to Santa Monica High, and suddenly they get stood up by, you know, one of the Mexican gang members or, you know, somebody else, and they go through their experiences. They weren't used to being in a multi-ethnic arena. So Santa Monica High was a great experience, too. That was very cool. But now their high school is in Malibu.
To get off the subject, I just recently, you know, it was funny, I did the Fight Companion with Joe, and I was goofing on Atlantic City, and I kept goofing on Buff. I go, Buff is the only motherfucker they sent. even Dana White's scared of Atlantic City, because Atlantic City is no fucking joke.
You walk into the hotel, you're dead.
When you check into that whatever, they tell you as a comedian, don't leave the hotel at night.
Is that bad?
I'm not fucking around with nobody. When I tell you people, they tell you at the hotel. Like when you check in, they're like, you know, you don't leave the hotel at night. Like you just don't do it.
Isn't it like a boardwalk?
Well,
like
the boardwalk is there, but if you go outside the hotel into the street, go stand on the corner for 15 minutes.
Oh my god!
Jeez, because I grew up in Boston, and I came here when I was right around 21, 22, so I could never go there, so I never experienced it.
When I did Joe's last time, he spoke about Camden, how Camden's having a big problem right now. Let me tell you something. They're having a problem now. When I was growing up, that area was real. Pensauken. Mm-hmm. Where's Jack Nicholson from? I forget the name of that town down there.
IMDb time.
Neptune, New Jersey. We played bitty basketball at Neptune, New Jersey one time. South Jersey, Philadelphia is no fucking joke. I don't want none of you people thinking like I said, for years at that Eagle Stadium, they had a courtroom and a jail downstairs to process you during the fucking games. Even crazier than Boston, crazier than New York fans. So it still magnifies. So I can't even imagine you leaving that area at that time.
I grew up in Germantown, Pennsylvania, and Cheltenham Township, and my brother and I my brother Brian, who I grew up with, I would never allow my kid to do this today, but when we were like 8 and 10, we would take the train or the bus and go to downtown Philly, walk through the bad areas. We go to the Franklin Institute. We go to the museum. We go see a movie, have lunch, and we wind up getting home about 3:30, 4 o'clock. And that was great teaching for us as kids because we had no fear as a result of doing all that. I would never let my kid do that today.
You?
No way. Never.
I don't even think about it. Like, I could never let Mercy go to a bad neighborhood in my mind. But, you know, what are you gonna, hey, listen, for years when I was growing up, my mom said, don't cross, because when I came from Cuba, we lived on 205 West 88th Street, and her biggest fear was Broadway.
Really?
Right in New York, she'd say, don't fucking cross Broadway. Well, as soon as I went out that front and her head popped in, I crossed fucking Broadway. That's what you do. Once you cross Broadway in New York City, your life changes. It's like getting your dick sucked by a midget. You're never the same. You're never the same again. You know what I'm saying? Little midget gives you a little sucala mink with that big head. You're never the same. You go home, you have nightmares for a month.
They got strong hands, too.
Yeah, they got. I know, I got to call them little people. Fuck that. They're fucking midgets, all right? What do I give a fuck? Anyway, so now you're in Malibu. Because I always go to Malibu. You know, I did 5 Christmas movies with Dean Cain. And a fucking dog. Yeah, for ABC Family. The dog.
Isn't Dean a great guy?
Dean's a great guy.
Yeah.
And to listen to his stories, like, he grew up with Sean Penn down the corner. Like
Same,
shit like that, right? Like,
but that's the way it was for me, too. We had, on Point Doom was Sean Penn, was Charlie Sheen, was Rob Lowe and his brother Chad Lowe, and I had Steve McQueen, who was my friend living a half mile away from me, and I surfed every day in front of his house. His son and I are still best friends. When I moved to Malibu back then, we weren't rich. We've never been a rich family.
You didn't need to be rich in those days.
No, you didn't. The rich people lived at the beach, which was your celebrities, your movie stars, and all that. In the canyon, I lived a half mile from the beach in Trancas Canyon, a beautiful home. Cost like $50,000 back then. Today it'll cost you a couple million, of course, because everything's gone nuts. But it's a different world back then. Malibu is still beautiful and spacious, but it's not like it was back then. I thought it was. Maybe I'm getting older. I just loved it back then. I loved it when it was more of a countryside. Everybody knew everybody. There was 35,000 people that lived there. No, 27,000 people lived there when I moved there. So the population's increased exponentially larger.
I did I watched an interview with that dude who played and analyzed that, the little Italian dude.
In what movie?
Analyzed that, the one I did the second one.
In
those days I was doing sequels. I did all the bad fucking sequels. But I did analyze that. And he was in, and I did analyze that too, and he was in the one and the second one, and his name was something Vitarelli.
Joe Vitarelli.
Joe Vitarelli did a thing that he left Brooklyn and retired in Malibu, and his neighbor was Sean Penn.
Then he lived on Point Doom.
Is that true?
Yeah.
And Sean Penn used to torture him and say, hey, when are you going to do one of my movies? And he go, stop. And finally one day he goes, listen, I ain't fucking around. I need you for this movie. It was State of Grace. State of Grace is
great movie.
Great fucking movie, dog. Nobody's ever seen Gary Oldman in that. All you dumb fucks that are watching Gary Oldman and Iron Man and
True Romance.
And no, he wasn't bad in True Romance.
He was great.
But now like they'll see him in Planet of the Apes and
he was one of the baddest mofos
Dracula,
you could ever have.
Dracula, fucking The Professional. When he eats a pill and does that shit with his fucking neck.
We're going in like fucking Marines, you understand me?
Welcome to church, motherfucker.